You know, I should have known how my screening of Blonde was gonna go after the movie theater accidentally played Minions: The Rise of Gru instead of this film. Oh man. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today we're going to get into all of my thoughts on Blonde, the new Netflix film that surrounds Marilyn Monroe that is hitting Netflix this week, September 28th. Guys, ooh, okay, before I even get into my positives and negatives, let me thank Netflix for the chance to watch this early in person for review. And yeah, guys, this movie's a lot, and not great ways, but hey, before we get into all of my thoughts, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies, TV, and all the news in between. So if you do too, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and help us get even closer to 10,000. And go ahead and hit the thumbs up button if you're a fan of Marilyn Monroe and if you're interested in this film. And let me know down below in the comments what you thought of the film if you see it, because not everyone's going to be able to see this one, guys. It is an NC-17 movie. It's the first one I've seen in quite a while. But yes, this is basically a fictionalized take on Marilyn Monroe's life. It's based off of a book called Blonde, if I'm not mistaken, that is a fictional accounting of her life, which is controversial in and of itself. But you know what? The film, it's got a couple of good things about it. If you don't know much about the movie, of course, it's directed by Dominik, and it's starring Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe, Julianne Nicholson as Gladys, Marilyn's mother, and Bobby Cannavale and Adrien, Brody, and some others. It's an ensemble cast for the most part, but there were some good takeaways here. So you know what, guys, let's waste no more time and get right into my positives and some things that I kind of enjoyed when it comes to Blonde. And that begins with Ana de Armas's acting. She does play Marilyn Monroe here, and you know what? I thought she did a pretty darn good job. Now, sometimes her accent does come through and it kind of breaks the immersion just a tad, but that's not anything against her. I just think that this is her taking on a role that is pretty much larger than life. Marilyn Monroe is a huge figure, or was a huge figure in Hollywood and beyond. So Ana de Armas, to me, did a good job at displaying her range. Now, see, I am a fan of Ana de Armas. I think she's a very good actor, and she does showcase a great deal of ability and talent in this movie. She's definitely capable of playing this role. It's just a shame that the director and the writing and everything for her performance and her portrayal of Marilyn Monroe, well, it wasn't very great in honoring Marilyn Monroe, let's put it that way. So yes, Ana de Armas, her acting was pretty solid, especially towards the end of the film. I thought that she really did a good job at showing the downward spiral of Marilyn Monroe's life. But yeah, Ana de Armas, I would say for the most part, was the standout among our entire ensemble cast. And technically speaking, there are some shots here that are very impressive. The cinematography at times was very unique. Director Dominik plays a lot with aspect ratio, black and white, and color photography, so there are a lot of different elements at play here. Sometimes, yes, it's sensory overload, but I did appreciate some of the technical elements, the blocking and framing of certain shots, and even the score did aid the movie sometimes. And hold on, I'm flipping through my notes here. Oh, okay, I think that's actually all I have for the positives, you guys. I'm not kidding. Unfortunately, well, Blonde it's disgusting. Now listen, I can explain. I am able to handle, certain amounts of gore, nudity, and some suggestive themes in films as long as it serves a purpose. But Blonde is an entire mess, and it starts right at the top with director Dominik, who I think is full of himself here, and he's incredibly self-indulgent. What he does here is provide more style over substance. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, oh my gosh, this is the absolute worst film I've ever seen in my lifetime. But for this year, this is among some of the worst films I've seen, and it's mainly for the fact that this movie accomplishes little to nothing in terms of storytelling and honestly of substance. There's a lot of shock value here, and it's not great. I also feel like the movie struggles with a consistent tone in the first half. So there's a horror vibe to this. It's kind of scary in a way with Julianne Nicholson's portrayal of Gladys and how they portray Marilyn's younger years, where she's almost fearful of her mother, and there are a lot of things that are a little bit traumatizing, to be honest. So if you're easily triggered by things like rape, sexual assault, or domestic violence, this movie's going to be a difficult watch for you. And Andrew Dominik definitely doubles down on this style as the film goes on. And yes, the film definitely goes on. This is a nearly 3-hour film, you guys. So if you are not enjoying it in the first act, he'll only kind of, again, double down on that as the film goes on. And there's an uncomfortability factor to this that it's just, it does not resonate with me in the slightest. But speaking of the runtime, you guys, let's talk about that a little bit, because I think this is only about 10-15 minutes shy of a 3-hour film, and the movie itself just doesn't know where to end. But even before we get to the conclusion, it just did not feel like this film was going anywhere special. And even at the least, I was hoping for some sort of focus on Marilyn Monroe's life outside of her being abused and unfortunately treated like meat. Okay, let me preface that. She was treated like meat, yes, in real life, because men just looked at her and thought she was eye candy, which is awful. But then in the film, Andrew Dominik, the director, does pretty much the same thing. And I don't care for the whole like meta, oh my gosh, I'm just portraying exactly how Marilyn Monroe was treated in real life, because this movie, all it does, it serves to diminish her. And as the film goes on, it just became more and more infuriating for me, because it was just, well, it was just graphic to be graphic. It overly sexualizes the character of Marilyn Monroe in the film, but also of Ana de Armas. So if you remember, of course, I just mentioned, yes, Ana de Armas' acting is pretty darn good in this movie, but I don't know why director Andrew Dominik decided to film her topless a lot more than what was really necessary. And honestly, there are some point of view shots, especially in the third act, that made me feel just icky. It was disgusting. We didn't need to see that, and it just lingers on that and lingers on that and lingers on that. There's even a moment where she's having a I think the word is polyamorous relationship, and it to me did not do anything for the film. This is a sick and twisted retelling of her life, and the problem is there is nowhere in the movie where this says, oh yes, it's based on a fictional book. So when people see this movie, it's problematic in and of itself, because people are going to come out of it thinking, oh, this was her life. And it's not, for the most part. It really isn't. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Marilyn Monroe. One of my friends in the space, Dave Lee Down Under, is, but he even told me that this is just not Marilyn Monroe's life in the slightest. And then when it comes to the themes of this movie, now I understand that, you know, on the surface level, okay, I get what the director's going for here. I get what the movie's trying to do. It's trying to showcase that Marilyn Monroe had attachment issues, that she had daddy issues, but the film is just hitting you over the head with it. There's even a long period of time in this film, probably for a good hour, where all she does is refer to her husband or husbands as daddy. And it is really weird. And honestly, it took me out of the film. There are so many immersion breaking moments in this movie that by the end, not only was I just terribly upset, but I just thought to myself, what's the purpose of this film? And then there are some creative decisions here that really made me scratch my head. Outside of the over-sexualization of Ana de Armas, there's also this miscarriage theme throughout the film that is weird. It's like this CGI fetus that okay, I think we have to get to a point in Hollywood where we stop handing the reins over to men when they're directing films about iconic and powerful women, because this is the result, guys. I'm so sorry. I know this sounds kind of like a rant, but there are so many elements of this film where you can just tell a woman was not directing this. And of course, a woman didn't direct this. So I really was hoping for a lot more out of this, because I went in with an open mind and I thought, okay, yes, I know it's based on a controversial book, but there's probably something here that I can pull out of and come away and say, you know what, I enjoyed this, I enjoyed that. But I can only tell you that I enjoyed Ana de Armas' performance, but she is totally misused by the end of the film here. And to me, I can't recommend this movie. I cannot recommend Blonde. I wouldn't recommend it to you even just to watch it because, oh my gosh, it's so bad, it's good. It's not. And also there's this shock value. No, that does nothing. This film is one of those movies that you walk out of and you think, I just don't think that this movie needed to be made. And if it did, can it be made in a different way? And that comes down to the director, the writer. It's all about the behind the scenes. And I feel bad for those that were in front of the camera, because I do feel like they're coming into a film that had a lot of promise, and then the final product is just totally different. It's totally different. So overall, you guys, I don't want to spend too much more time ranting about this film. I have to tell you that Blonde is one of the more infuriating movies that I've seen in my lifetime. Not only do I think it is a terrible film, but it is just a disgusting accounting of Marilyn Monroe in her life. Now, again, I do think that there are bigger Marilyn Monroe fans out there than I am, but I think we can all come together and find common ground on the fact that this movie is problematic, it's absolutely horrid, and it's just infuriating because of the self-indulgent style of Andrew Dominik that's on display here. I mean, he made me pretty much not want to watch any more of his movies after watching Blonde. And Ana de Armas, I feel so bad for her because she gave a good performance, but not even she could save this film. Now, there are some takeaways technically, like I mentioned, that are really, really pleasant, like these transitions, the score, the aspect ratio changes, the black and white to color photography. It all kind of adds a little bit of an element to this film that I think it was needing, but by the middle, I was just tapped out. This movie is just not for me, and I don't think it's a great film overall anyway, and I just really wish that this movie, to be honest with you, was either made in a different way or just not produced at all, because this is just, it's disgusting. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review and all my spoiler-free thoughts on Blonde, a film that again hits Netflix on September 28th. If you are brave enough to watch this movie, let me know down below in the comments what you think of this film. And hey, even if you don't, I'd appreciate you hitting that big red button and subscribing to the channel, because we got more content coming. We just had some awesome content earlier this week, and I just can't wait for the rest of award season, because I'm hoping to come away from movies not upset like this. Alrighty, y'all, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. And you know what? Maybe they should have just kept playing Minions Rise of Gru.